What I'm doing is I'm brushing some lower cabinets, and I'm doing a voiceover, so I wasn't able to like walk you guys through the steps of how I do it. But this is just a basic, old-fashioned brush, like brushing the surface, start to finish. It's all brush work outside of sanding it down, and like we just buffed it real quick. Got a good little sand on it, so the paint that we're putting down will stick to it a little bit better. And we're only doing the fronts. We're just facing it off. And I'm kind of glad I got to share this video because I was talking about it not too long ago, and I was talking about how it would be nice to get a cabinet job to show you guys how we do it. But this is brushing a set of cabinets. This is not spraying a set of cabinets. Like, two totally different animals, two totally different finishes, two totally different price points. Like, it's just night and day different. So when you come down to brushing cabinets like this, like, yeah, it's nice, it's easy, it's just one of those things. And if you notice, the way I'm brushing this, I do the outer edge first, and then I work from like the outer edge into the middle, and I do that for a reason. Usually I start with the middle panel, and then I'll work my way out. It just depends on like who the person is that's painting it. Everybody's different, but there's a couple different ways that you can do it, and that's one of them. But I would definitely say the biggest thing that you want to do when you do your cabinets like that is make sure you don't got heavy brush strokes. Just keep it kind of thin and keep your brush strokes down, and it'll dry it down flatter, and it'll turn out a little bit better. Because if you notice at the end of it, I showed a video, or I showed not the video, but I showed a part of the cabinet where it was starting to dry, and to give you guys an idea how it lays down when you do it this way, and if you notice, like for some reason I noticed there's like little pinholes everywhere from the green, and it's most likely from just where the cabinets, the top layer of the finish come off or whatever. And you can, because if you notice, some cabinets are solid, some ain't, and these ones here got like real thick green in it. And I'll try to get a video of that when I do the second coat. And if you can hit the subscribe button, I'd be really grateful. Leave a comment, tell me what you think, and hit that like button. I'm trying to grow my channel, and I'd be really grateful for your help. And I'll show you how thick the green is in some areas. Like, you can almost put your fingernail in them and see it. But these things were originally stained, and then they was painted, and then we're gonna paint them again. But the homeowners they just want to change the colors, and it's just we only got 3 days to do it, and there's 2 of us doing it, so we're already 2 days into it. So we got all day tomorrow to finish first coating it, then second coating it. But it's just one of those things. It's the technique that I use that I try to teach people. I do board for a reason, because when you're done with it, you'll actually, like, when you got your boards running straight across, and then you got your little cutoff points where your router joints are. When they build the cabinet, there's actually a top, bottom, side to side, and then they snap it, they glue it, then they press it together, and then they clamp it, and then they let it seat, or they set it overnight. And then when it cures, it's nice and tight and ready to go. Well, if you, just like a door, if you do the panels and then you do each board going the same direction as the board, it'll actually look more like a door when you're done with it. It's just one of those things that I learned how to do it a long time ago, and I think it turns out phenomenal. Like, it gives it a nice clean look, but it also gives it that unique look. And because I know I've painted doors on here that's just like going at it, just changing the color. It is what it is. No one's looking at it. And when you start messing with the way paint lays down and stuff like that. Like, you can play with that stuff to a degree, and depending on how you do it, it can turn out really nice and solid. And that's the main end game, is how good does it look at the end. There's a reason why we do the things that we do, and it's not just because, like, there's a reason for everything that we do. And I've been in this game so long that we've tried every different way, and some ways work out better, some don't. Some blew up in our face, some didn't, and some we kept, and some we just did away with. And the techniques that we use now is the ones that we ended up keeping and we perfected them. Then we got really fast at them, and it's to save time and money on the job, so we can give a good quality paint job at a fast price. But it also takes manpower to do that. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm doing the board that goes across the bottom, and then I'm taking my tip of my brush and I'm putting the brush strokes in the wet paint that I overlap the butt joint with. And the reason why I do that is so when I go to do that board, them will be kind of set up, and the dry or the wet paint will go right back over top of it. It's kind of like one of those things, if you don't put them brush strokes in there, by the time you get back to it, it'll be set up, and then you'll have these brush strokes that are going so far into that board. And it's one of those things that you just get used to it once you brush it out, and then you basically tip it. We call it tipping it, like tipping it off. And it's where we just take the tip of our brush, get the brush strokes going in a straight line. We make a nice straight line through the butt joint, and then we do that. And then when we come to do the face of the board itself, then everything just blends in, and it doesn't have no like real rough texture or nothing like that. But it's one of those things, like, especially if you're doing a big door. Reason why we started doing this is because when you try to paint a big door, it's hard. The only way of really doing it so it doesn't like flash and look bad is to paint it all while it's still wet. So from start to finish, that paint's got to stay wet, and that's impossible. There's times that you'll see that I'm painting this stuff, as I'm spreading it, it's already starting to dry. Like, it dries very fast, and the thinner you put it on to get the thinner the thinner layer of paint down, it just dries faster. So it's one of those things, like, yeah, it's nice to have a nice thick layer on there so it stays wet, but as soon as you start brushing it out and spreading it, it starts thinning out, and then it's a lot harder to like blend with, because it'll start setting up. It's like when you start something, and when you start it and you get about halfway, like say a big door, you start at the bottom of it and you start bringing it up, and then all your other brush strokes are down. And when you're doing that, when you get about halfway up that door, you'll notice when you're taking your brush strokes down, not just into what you just got done doing, but down farther than that into the thing that you just got done like doing about 2 minutes ago. Once you get into that area, you'll just feel it grab your brush, because it's already setting up, and it's so like tacky that it'll grab your brush. But it's also going to give you a flash mark, so when you look at it, you'll notice, like, man, that thing looks like a scuff mark. And we call them flash marks, but it's exactly what it's doing, is flashing. It's where you put wet paint over top of paint that's already started to dry, and now you got 3 coats in one area. So if you got a spot that you brush out, and then you get your other brush strokes brought down into that top layer's actually got 2 coats on it, not just 1. So anytime you overlap, every one of the spots got 2 coats in it. That's why it's kind of nice to get a nice thin coat on there so you can brush it out. And it just works better that way. But it's one of those things that takes a little bit of time. It took me about, I would say, 5 or 6 doors to get the idea of like how to do it down, and then it took me about I'd say 10 more doors to actually start getting good with it. But it's just one of those things, like, it's so much more worth it to learn how to do that method. Like, it really is a nice method when it's done and dry, but it's just one of those things that you got to be on top of it. But it also keeps you moving through the door so you don't stop, waste time. Because if you got a cutoff point, you can always just come back and hit that one spot. Like you can do just the top and the bottom of it, hit your edges with the tip of your brush, and then turn around and come back 5 minutes later after it's dry and paint the boards that you missed. So it's one of those things that it's nice to have a cutoff point, but it also ain't a good thing because it can cost you it'll give you enough time to go do something else, and then next thing you know, you forget about it and you won't come back, and you have to come back and do it. So it does keep you moving at the same time. If you notice, I'm doing that center piece of the cabinet, which we call it the panel, because you got your frame and then you got your panel that's in the middle. And you want to do the same thing. You want the brush strokes to follow the grain. That's more or less what I'm doing, is I'm following the grain. So if the grain's going one way, you're going the same way with it. And when you get to the end of it, you cut it off, put your tips in it, like you tip it off with your brush, and then you can go at it that way. But it's just one of those things that looks so much better when it's done. It looks fuller, it looks a little bolder, and it just got a unique look to it. If you notice, we already sanded all this stuff. But we try to do the edge, because we're just on the face of it. I remember the first time I did this method, I come from painting new homes, and when I was told that I had to learn how to do it this way, it was kind of weird to me, because I was like, it's just weird. Because at the time I was used to overlapping and blending. I would overlap my edges onto the top of the board, and then I would cut the top of the board off and do it that way. And when I learned this method, it changed how I looked at paint, and I was like, oh, I see. Like, if you can understand the point of it and the method, it makes it so much easier. Like, it's not necessarily just grabbing a brush and painting. Everybody thinks painting is painting. It's not. It's so much more than that. And like, I can go down a whole rabbit hole of like explaining the true methods of like the step-by-step process of painting something, and people would look at painting totally different, because that's how it was explained to me. Because when I first started painting, I thought, yeah, you're just putting a coat of paint on, it's not a big deal. But when people broke it down to me, it's like, no, it's not just a coat of paint. Brush strokes matter, roller textures matter, spray textures matter, and stuff like that. That's why what I'm doing is, it's not just for no reason, it's because of the texture that I'm using. In order to brush this, I gotta deal with a straight texture. It's like taking your fingers and putting it in the paint and then streaking it. Now, if I'm rolling it, it's real nappy. And if you're spraying it, it lays down smooth and flat. So you got different textures to deal with. When you're spraying it, yeah, the whole thing lays down flat, dries together. Like I said, you cannot paint something that's dry. Like, you can't paint into something that's dry. If you're brushing something out and you get back, like, and you go up, and then you try to get back into something that's already set up, now you just put 3 coats on that spot. You got the first coat, then when you overlap it the second time, now you got a second coat on it. But that one area's got 2 coats on it, where the other areas don't. It's only got 1 coat on it. Even though you're putting the first coat on it, that area that you overlap has 2 coats on it. And what I was talking about is the third coat is when after you put the first coat on it and you overlap a spot that has dried, and you put overlap over top of a dry spot, and then you put another coat over top of that. That's your third coat. Sorry, I misspoke when I said that. But that's what I was talking about, the third coat. I was just getting ahead of myself. But it's one of those things when you're painting something, like, I can explain it, and it makes people scared to do things because they're like, man, this sounds really complicated, and it's not. It's really just common sense. Everything we do is common sense. This is why I say it's nice to have a rag with you at all times. Normally painters always have rags anyway, but the reason why I say that you should have a rag with you at all times, because at any time you'll have to wipe something up. And so it's nice to have it around your hip. But what I do is I take the finger, like the edge of my finger, and I slide it down that door, and I keep that straight edge. So it's like, it cuts it really sharp. But it's nice to do that. That way you don't get paint on the back of it. So if you don't wipe that paint off, it'll dry, and it'll have like a real thick line down it, and it looks like trash. And it'll actually stick to, like when the door closes, it'll stick to the paint that you already did. So it's nice to get that paint off there if you can, or you can just wait until the end, just cut it off. Either way, there's a couple different ways of doing it, but I would definitely recommend using just a rag and wiping it off while you're there. Whenever I do something, I try to do it to a point where I can like repeat it, and then it turns into like muscle memory, so it helps me out. I know a lot of people are different, but that's how I am about it. But yeah, when I do this door, I'm repeating the same steps, and when I do the door above it, or the drawer, I'm going to repeat the same steps. I'm going to cut the outer edge out, and that door don't open. It's solid, so you can paint it. You'll have to paint that whole area at once. And as the boards are going across, and the boards that are going down, you can crisscross them as needed. But you don't have to get like all into detail about it if you don't want to. I mean, it's just one of those things. If you want to learn how to do it, it's a good area to try, because that's how tedious some things can get. But like I said, this is something that I do every day, so it's one of those things, like when a homeowner knows that you can paint something, they know that they could trust you with it. Like, you're gonna do your best, you're gonna give me a good job, and they could trust you with it. When you build that trust, that's even greater. But it's like, that's how I ran into this problem when I would go into homeowners' houses, and they were like, "Oh, I paid a painter to come in here and do this, and they did a terrible job." And then we'd had to fix everything they tore up because they didn't know what they was doing, and then we'd had to repaint it, and then we'd had to charge them for all that. And it sucks because just not understanding the steps in doing something it's just key to painting. Like, if you don't know how to paint, don't tell someone that you know how to paint. It's not a slap in one's face. Because if a homeowner says, "Hey, I'll pay you to paint my house," and you tell her, like, "Yeah, I know how to do it," and you get there and you don't even know how to caulk it or tape it off or nothing like that, like, you don't know the steps into painting it, they're gonna look at you really funny. But someone that's did it every day, they know exactly what they're talking about, and that's where the experience comes in. I wouldn't have a painter in my house unless they had at least 5 years experience. And that's someone that paints every day for 5 years. If you want a decent quality painter, at least 5 years of experience. That's where they're starting to actually understand the tools. They're getting good with them. Like, they actually know how to use them. They know the difference between this brush and that brush. I mean, because a lot of people, like I said, a lot of people think it's just, if you want to buy a brush, you go to the paint store and buy a brush. There's a good chance that you're buying a brush that don't go to nothing that what you're painting. There's names on the brushes for a reason, and each name on that brush tells a different story for it. Like, you can buy you can go to the paint store and grab a brush and pay for it, and you need to get paint latex, and you just bought a brush that's for oil base, and you can't clean that brush with, I mean, you can clean it with water, but you'll no longer be allowed to like there's brushes for latex for a reason, there's brushes for oil base for a reason, and the bristles hold up to like lacquers and thinners and stuff like that for a reason. And then there's bristles that hold up to water and hot water and cold water, soaps and stuff like that. Just different chemicals. Soaps will dry brushes out. Oils will burn them up. They'll make them real hard and brittle, and they'll crack. And they'll make them real hard. But it's just one of those things. Like there's way more to this stuff than what people think. It's not just, I'm going to go down and grab a brush and start painting. Because like the brush I got now, it's actually made for high volume latex for trim. And it's really, they're Trinex bristles. They're really decent to clean out and stuff, but there's times that I'll paint and the paint will start setting up in the top end of it, and I'll have to stop in the middle of it and go clean it out because it's starting to get too stiff. But it's just one of those things, like, it's nice to know, like, what your limits are on this stuff, because, like I said, a lot of people think they can just go down and grab one and it's good enough. And if you just need to touch something up or whatever, yeah, that's cool, whatever. Like, I get it. But in the same sense, there is a rhyme and reason to everything. Like, it's not just one of those things like, I'll just go down and buy a brush. Like, you should ask the guy behind the counter, what's this brush for? And make sure that the stuff that you got is what it's for. Because every different paint you need a different brush for it. Like, the brush I'm using is for trim latex. I won't paint walls with that brush. I got a brush that holds up better on walls that I use, that I don't use on trim. Because I can use an older, cheaper brush on the walls versus the trim paint, which is a higher volume. It's got more chemicals in it. It's got self-level. Like, trim paint has self-level in it. It's got quick dry activants in it. Like, it's got chemicals in it that'll actually dry your brush up. So you need bristles to handle that. Like, that's what I was saying. You can get in a whole rabbit hole with just a brush, let alone anything else. But if you want to know the difference in brushes, I can actually do a video on it and break the brushes down and put it into simple term for you. It's not really hard. You just got to know if you're using a certain paint, like trim, walls, and ceilings, which brush is going to work best for it. One thing I wanted to say is I'm not saying, like, when you start, it's hard to tell people how to paint on the level that I know how to paint, and because I can tell you things and it sounds very disorienting and it makes you not want to try it. I'm not saying that at all. Some people are painters and some people ain't. I have a brother-in-law I've tried to help paint. I've took him painting a couple times and he just couldn't pick it up. And some people just take right off. There's two types of people. Somebody can do it and somebody can't. And it's one of those things that 90% of the people that know that they can't do it, it's because they really can't do it. And I totally get it. But don't be discouraged to try something new. I never would have knew I could paint as good as I do if I didn't try. And every job is practice. Every job is practice until it matters. So don't get discouraged and think that it's overwhelming. It's really not. I'm just saying, by the book, this is what it says. And it can get very overwhelming, especially, like, to give you guys an idea. I can break down a brush and it could be a 2-hour video. And that's just one latex brush. Like, it's one of those things, like, I can go into vivid detail about, like, what things are, like, what they're for. And it's not, and it's no knock on nobody. It's just one of those things, like, I've worked with it so much that I had to figure out, like, because what I was doing is I was buying these brushes, and I was wondering why, when I would use them in certain paints, they was falling apart. Like, the bristles would fall out of them, or they would dry up and get super hard. You couldn't use them no more, and stuff like that. So I learned over the years, don't use this brush and this paint. And it's just one of those things, like I said, it's all practice until it matters. But do not be discouraged to try something new. I have a problem with trying new things, and I'd like to dive into it and learn about it, and then when I get tired of it, I'd move to the next thing. But that's my personality, but it's not everybody's, and I get that. Some people are more on the surface, very cut and dry. I get it, but if you like to go into detail about some of this stuff, I definitely have that side of painting in me that I've learned over the years. Because I mean, it's one of those things, like, it's hard to tell someone, like, yeah, I know what you're saying, and they really understand what I'm saying. Like, I know if I explain something to a homeowner, I try to make it as simple as possible and as fast as possible, so I don't make it too complicated, because it can get very complicated very fast. And I find myself doing that on these videos. I'm not trying to make it complicated. I'm trying to make it very understanding, so you're not overwhelmed. So it's just one of those things, like, and it sucks because on the other hand, you got other people out there that's like, it's just painting. It's like, it's really not just painting. Like, you can really destroy someone's house by putting the wrong thing on it. And what I mean by destroying someone's house by putting the wrong thing on it is, you can go to the paint store and tell them, I need an exterior paint, and they can hand you whatever they can. They'll tell you, they go down this whole list of, like, what paint are you looking for? What's it for? Do you want oil or you want latex? And, like, if you already got oil-based products down, you don't want to put latex over top of it, because when you paint latex over top of oil, you can walk right up to it and grab the paint and peel it off. It shoots. So it's something I don't recommend anybody doing, is painting latex over top of oil base. But that's one of those things, like, if you don't understand the difference in paints, it can really tear some stuff up. Like, we get paid to go in and convert people's houses from stained woodwork to latex, and it's a job to do that. In order to do that, you either got to get an oil-based primer, like a stain blocking primer, and spray the stain with it, so it's got a good bite, and then you can paint your latex over top of that. But if you don't know the steps, then it's just you're pretty much wasting your time painting something. Like, because I get it. I mean, I get it. People's like, I just need to get it painted. I don't want to go all into detail and stuff like that, and it's fine. It's totally understandable. But if you want to know, because I realized when I was painting on them really nice homes, I would tell the homeowner, like, oh, it's okay. I won't go all into detail and tell you all this stuff. And I would say 50% of them kind of ask me, what are you talking about? Explain it to them. So I would actually sit down and explain it to them why we do the things we do. And a lot of homeowners like to know that the products that we're using are going to hold up for a long time, and they don't, because if I told a homeowner I'm putting cheap paint on their house, they're going to get an assumption that they're getting a cheap paint job. And it's not necessarily the case, because I can chase in cheaper paints that's not that bad, and they actually hold up for 5 to 10 years, but it's a $20 a gallon paint. It's just one of those things, and that's where the experience comes into play, and like, it can get very, very overwhelming. the reason why it gets overwhelming is because when I'm explaining stuff to, like when I'm explaining stuff on here, a lot of people don't really understand what I'm talking about, because if I tell you that I'm gonna get some paint and paint something, that's one thing. But if I tell you I need to do this, and this to it, it's another. And the reason why it gets overwhelming is because if I tell you a 15-minute conversation and you only understand 2 or 3 things out of it, it seems very overwhelming. And that's the case when it comes to trying to explain to a homeowner or anybody else what I'm doing. Like, to someone that's got 5 to 10 years of experience in this stuff, they totally understand what I'm saying. Like, yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. And yeah, we can bounce ideas off each other and stuff like that. So it's one of those things, like, if an experienced painter sees this video, he'll understand exactly what I'm saying. And he'll know exactly where I'm coming from. Because I can say that, I gotta paint some fresh drywall. Well, most painters know you gotta prime it first and then paint it. Just to give it a good, like, if you want a good job, that's what it takes. I gotta come in, prime the walls, and then paint them. And you gotta know the steps to give someone a decent paint job. And that's where the experience comes into play, because there's a lot that you gotta, and it's not that one painter is better than the other. It's just, you got an interior painter, you got an exterior painter, and an exterior painter is better at painting exteriors than an interior painter is painting exteriors. And an interior painter can paint better than an exterior painter on the inside. So it's one of those things, like, if you are an exterior painter and you tell them, hey, I need you to come inside and paint my rooms, the material that they use every day, they're not used to when they come inside. And just like the vice versa. But I've actually been doing it enough, because I would normally work in the winter inside, and then I would come outside and work outside in the summer, and I got to get very good at all of it. So it's one of those things, like, I actually got to learn over all of the years of painting insides and outsides, and then spray and trim. So I'm actually a painter that's very well versed in all 3 areas of interiors, exteriors, and trim work. And if you got an exterior, I would ask the painter, are you more into working on exteriors do you do exteriors more than interiors? Because if you want an exterior painter, you got to make sure that he understands that. Yeah, I can tell you, yeah, I've been painting exteriors every summer for the past 10 years. And if they ask me, can you paint interiors? I'd be like, yes, I've been painting interiors for the past 20 years. It's just one of those things. But I do it every day, 7 days a week, 10 to 12 hour days. And the reason why I say I work 12-hour days is because if I gotta drive to Columbus, that's 3 hours of my day I'm not getting paid for. And it does kind of suck, because that's a cost that I gotta bite. But that's my problem, not yours. But if you can, hit that subscribe button, because I'm trying to grow my channel, and I'm stuck at like 100 subscribers, and it's just been hell trying to get subscribers. So I don't know if I'm doing something wrong or what, but if you can hit that subscribe button, I'd be really grateful. If you can get any help out of this video, then you can help me by hitting that subscribe button, leaving a comment, and hitting the like button, because it would, I really would appreciate it. And I got a couple other videos coming, the upper cabinets, and there's a set of cabinets on my left they're pull outs. They're just drawers, and I'll show you how to paint the drawer and the face of the cabinet itself without getting paint all over everything. I'm using a little bit bigger brush than what I should because I'm just doing the face of the board, and it's a lot harder to do that with a bigger brush like this. So if you do use one, like I'm using a 2-inch brush, you would definitely want to drop down to like 1.5 inches. It would definitely be a little bit better, and try to go with a little skinnier brush because they got wide brushes and then they got thin ones. The thin ones are more of a sash brush, and a sash brush is for like painting window trims, like the little edge of the window or the top lip of the trim. And the brush is on an angle too. It's not like a flat over and up. It's actually it's like it goes down and then it goes in an angle and then it goes up. So it gives you a tip of a brush to use, and it's also thinner than a thicker one. So if you want to do it, I would definitely recommend using it like a 1 inch or a 1.5 inch. I would definitely say 1.5 is a little more comfortable for people. You can move a little faster with that. But you'll notice when you're holding the brush, it's real thin. It's not very thick. Like you can grab a 2-inch brush off the shelf, and you'll notice it's kind of fatter. Like the cardboard will be a little bit fatter too, and you'll notice one's thinner and one's thicker. Just stick with the little thinner one on tight areas like that. But it's just one of those things. Like I should have used one of them. I got one of those brushes. I just very rarely use it because the bristles are so soft. It's hard to push the paint around. So I like a stiffer brush when I paint. And I've had this brush here for I'd say about 3 or 4 weeks now, and it's just now getting broke in. So I'm starting to like it, and it gives a real nice sharp cut line. So I don't know. I kind of like these brushes. I've been using them for the past year now, and they're kind of my go-tos because they're easy to clean out and they're a Trinex bristle. But it's one of those things that, like I said, paintbrushes are a whole rabbit hole. But when it comes to doing tight areas, smaller, skinnier brushes help. I have another video of, you can actually see it just above my head right now. The cabinets at the top where they meet the ceiling. I got a video of painting that whole little system right there. So if you want to see how to do those, I try not to make these videos too long. Like I said, it took me like 41 minutes to paint this cabinet. So like I said, if you guys can leave in the comments if you like these longer videos or not, because I mean I can go in a little more detail about what I do and some of the things I do. That's why I was saying if you can tell me what your opinion is in the comment, then I can use that in my videos and give you guys a little better advice. Like, do you like me actually explaining things? Do you not care? All this stuff matters. Like I said, I'm new to this, and it really would help me out knowing what you guys think to make better content for you guys, because it's not about me. My thing is, this art's dying, and there's not too many people picking up the torch. So if I don't at least document what I'm doing, I feel like it's going to be lost, because we haven't hired a new painter in over a year because of the drugs and the people just not being interested, and it's really hard to get help right now because we're dealing with people not wanting to work, and we're dealing with drug addicts, and I mean it's just a whole slew of things that's really hurting us as people trying to get, like, it's so hard to get someone to learn a trade. Like, I don't recommend anybody painting, don't get me wrong. There's no money in it. You get trapped in the life, and it really does. It's so hard to get out of. It's not funny. But I hope this is the year that some things change and I can actually get on my feet and be able to take some time off and do some work and get some revenue coming in to keep myself going. I'm really pushing for that, and I'm trying to get a business started on the internet so I can actually have people call me and books and put their jobs on a book. So, like I said, I'm in Ohio and I drive to Columbus all the time. I work in Murfield, Tartan Fields, like Highland Lakes. I mean, up off Sawmill, Powell. Man, there's so many houses I worked on in Columbus. It's not funny. Like I've been in just about every area up there for a very long time. Because when I worked for my old boss, he had very good contractors that he worked for, and they would have me do a lot of their work. So I would travel from one side of Columbus to the next pretty often. And I would start out in like German Village and do a job there, then go from there to Tartan Fields, and then I go from Tartan Fields, and then I go to Upper Arlington, and then I go from Upper Arlington to Bexley area. And it's just one of those things. Like, I traveled all over Columbus and worked on all different houses. So, and I got very good at what I was doing. And I want to get back into that field because it's so hard to do it.